Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the science behind one of the most important inventions you use, well, every single day.
Imagine this, a tiny little light. There's no fire, it barely even gets warm, and it can last for decades. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But here's the thing. This tiny marvel is probably lighting up your room as we speak.
So how in the world does it work? What's the secret inside? Well, let's dive right in and find out, starting with the most basic piece of the puzzle, light itself.
Okay, so to really get a handle on an LED, which stands for light-emitting diode, by the way, we first have to ask a simple question: what is light?
Turns out anything that glows, and I mean anything, from the sun all the way down to your phone screen, is basically just shooting out these tiny, tiny packets of energy. And the word for those is photons. You can just think of them as little glowing bubbles. And what's so cool about LEDs is they have this really clever trick for making millions and millions of these bubbles using just a tiny bit of electricity.
So how do they pull that off? To find out, we've got to shrink down and go inside the LED's magic chip. That's where all the action happens.
From the outside, it looks pretty simple, right? But the real heart of an LED, the most important part, is this tiny chip right in the middle. And when I say tiny, I mean it. Often no bigger than a single grain of sand. Now, this isn't just any old material. It's something really special called a semiconductor.
Okay, so what's a semiconductor? Think of it like a gatekeeper for electricity. You know how a copper wire is always an open door and rubber is always a locked door? Well, a semiconductor is different. We can actually tell it when to open the door and let electricity pass through. And that control, that is the real secret to creating light. Right, so unlike a simple wire where electricity just flows, or rubber where it's totally blocked, a semiconductor is that interesting middle ground. And that special trick to get it to conduct electricity, it's a process called doping. And no, not that kind of doping. It just means scientists add these tiny, very specific impurities to the material to give it special properties, either making it negative or positive. And this is where it gets really cool. We're basically creating the perfect environment for light to be born. Let's call it the electron dance floor. It's all about setting up this irresistible attraction. So what this doping does is it creates two different sides of the chip. You have the N-type for negative, which is packed with extra electrons. Think of them like a bunch of hyper kids with nowhere to sit. Then you have the P-type for positive, which has all these empty spots or holes. And you can think of those like empty chairs. So you've got this fascinating situation where the kids desperately want to jump over and grab a seat, but there's a little barrier in the way. They're just waiting for the music to start. And that barrier acts like a one-way street for electricity. We call it a diode. This one-way flow is absolutely essential because it's like a traffic cop, forcing all those electrons and all those holes to meet right in the middle, at what we call the junction between the P and N sides. Okay, so we've set the stage, we've got our electrons, they're eager to move, we've got our holes just waiting to be filled. Now let's add the spark. Let's add electricity and watch the magic happen. Here's what happens. The electricity gives those electrons the push they need. They see those empty holes on the other side and they just jump. And every single time an electron jumps into a hole, it has to give up a little bit of its energy. But here's the magic part. That lost energy doesn't become heat. Pop! It becomes a photon, a tiny bubble of pure light. And this isn't just happening once, it's happening millions of times every single second, creating that bright, steady glow we see from an LED. So that's it. That tiny electron jump is the whole secret. But why? Why has this one simple process completely revolutionized our world? Well, the biggest reason is just incredible efficiency. I mean, look at this. Old school incandescent bulbs, they worked by heating a tiny wire until it got white hot. They were basically tiny space heaters that happened to make a little light, wasting most of their energy as heat. But LEDs, they convert almost all of that electrical energy directly into light. When you think about that on a global scale, switching to LEDs saves a truly colossal amount of energy. That has a huge positive impact on the planet. And not only that, they're also built to last. I mean, really last. The reason is because the whole process is solid state. There are no burning parts, like a filament that can snap. There's no fragile glass tube to break, no gases to leak out. That tiny semiconductor chip is incredibly durable, which is why an LED can just keep running for years and years without ever failing. You know, when you put them side by side like this, it's just no contest.
To get the same amount of brightness, an LED uses a tiny fraction of the power. It lasts over 20 times longer than an old bulb, it stays cool to the touch, and it turns on instantly, no waiting for it to warm up. It is simply better in every single way.
And because they're so bright, so efficient, so safe, and so tiny, well, it's no surprise they have completely taken over our technology. They are everywhere.
That vibrant, beautiful screen you're holding in your hand, it's not one single light source. It's actually a grid made up of millions of microscopic red, green, and blue LEDs, all working together, firing on and off to literally paint the picture you see.
Think about car headlights. LEDs provide that bright, instant-on light that's crucial for safer driving at night. Plus, their durability means they can easily withstand the constant vibrations of the road without burning out.
This same efficiency has totally transformed our cities. Just by using LEDs for things like traffic lights, cities are saving millions in taxpayer money, not just on their electricity bills, but also on the cost and labor of constantly sending crews out to replace old, burnt-out bulbs.
And when you scale that up even further, the impact is just massive. We can now light up entire stadiums and whole cityscapes more brightly and brilliantly than we ever could before, all while dramatically reducing our energy footprint.
So when you see a quote like this, LEDs are not just lights, they are the building blocks of future technology. It really hits home, doesn't it? This incredibly simple, elegant process of an electron just finding its home has become a fundamental building block of our modern world. It impacts everything from how we communicate to our safety on the road.
It really makes you wonder, right? If a tiny chip can completely change how we light the entire world, what other simple science is hiding all around us, just waiting in plain sight? It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest revolutions really do start with the smallest spark.